guys, welcome back to Stronger Than Before, and I'm your host Sienna. So let's just get started. So today there's a lot that we're gonna eventually get into, but before I start sharing all the wildness and getting into all the crazy deep stuff, I just felt like it is important that you just know who I am and my values and just me as a person and where I'm coming from. And I know in episode 1, I mentioned how I'm on the journey of following my dreams and making decisions for you and living your life and all of that I got into if you watched it. And I came to this realization while I've been on this journey of really living my life like that and incorporating that. And there's been a lot of growth and change, and with that comes realizations. And one of them that I had is, which I know is something that we've all heard before, and I'm not the first to say it, but it's when someone shows you who they are, to believe them. And I really feel like that is something a lot of people can relate to and maybe struggle with, because it can be hard to set boundaries with people and really hold yourself accountable to your self-worth and not be over forgiving and give a million chances and believe every explanation. It can get hard, and it's hard especially when this can be with friendships, relationships, your parents, when it's somebody that you're really close to, that you have that tight bond. That can be really hard, and it can get messy and blurry, and you start accepting things that you shouldn't accept or you've accepted way too many times. And for me, I was accepting things I shouldn't accept from my dad and my stepmom. And that is where the realization came from them and those relationships and that part of my life that comes with a lot of stuff, as I said, we will eventually get into. And I also want to mention, I do have my laptop right here because I will get so sidetracked because there is so much information and I can go on a rant about it and I will get so off track, as I already naturally do, as if you watch episode 1, I'm sure you realized. But I'm learning as we go, and as I was saying, this comes from my dad and stepmom, this realization. I have accepted a lot of things from them that are not okay and should have never even happened in the first place. But I had an image of my dad in my head, of this relationship that I thought we would eventually have. And I always wanted to be close and hang out all the time with him and be best friends and go to dinner, and just the relationship that you see other girls have with their dads. If you are in my situation and you don't have a good relationship, or it's always on and off, or whatever it is, and you look at other people with good relationships with your dad, you're like, shit, that actually exists? That would be really nice. So that's me. That's where I'm at. And I had a realization that I need to remove those people out of my life. And that is the best decision I've ever made. And it's the best one for me. There's been more realizations that go into why I made that decision, and we're going to get into that. But I really just want to talk about the importance of when people show you who they are, to really believe them. Because I always found myself always going back to my dad and not being mad immediately and forgiving right away. And let me preface something. I've moved out of my dad's house probably 3 or 4 times over the course of a couple years, because just crazy events have taken place and I felt like I had no choice but to leave. I couldn't be in the environment, but I always went back because he would offer a vacation or something that would pull me back in and be like, oh, he's actually not that bad of a person. Oh, maybe he actually is good. And it makes it everything right just because he's taken me to the snow, or whatever it was, whatever the excuse was to make up for it. But the truth is you can only make things up so many times until somebody starts to realize that it's a pattern and a cycle, and that's really just who you maybe are. And that's what I realized. But there was a crazy, crazy, crazy situation that happened, and I was led to think my dad was choosing me and my brother finally, but it turns out he's not, because we're still in that cycle. And then I finally woke up, and that's when I realized, Sienna, look at everything that has happened. And also, if you're watching this right now and there's somebody that you're thinking about as I'm talking and sharing my story that you are relating to, if there's a person in your life that constantly makes you feel like you're in that fight or flight feeling, or that anxiety feeling, or you always feel like you're wrong and you're always begging for more or a change, and it just never is changing, and it's never really getting to where you want it to be and where maybe they're promising it will be, and they keep on hurting you and showing you time and time again that they can't change because they don't want to. They change when they want to, not because you're telling them to. Or I find myself, okay, well, maybe if I say it the right way or I put it this way, they'll really understand my perspective. But the truth is when somebody shows you who they are, no matter how many times you're having those conversations and they say they understand or they're going to change and they hear that, but the actions aren't lining up with that and showing that, then that's just who they are. And it took 13 years for me to realize that with my dad, because he's my dad and I love him and I always had hope. And when it's your parent, you think they always know best and that they have everything in your best interest. That's what I always thought, and I saw that from my mom. And so I always was just like, no, this must be what's best for me. This is fine. My dad would never do anything to hurt me, hurt my feelings. This is fine. I would find reasons to validate things my stepmom would do. For example, they moved away to Italy for a year when I was in middle school and left me and my brother here. And that was really hard. And that was just sucky because he said in the beginning it was because he wanted to grow his business and it was for work, but really he thought that it would be better for our relationship because I wasn't wanting to live with him at the time because I felt so neglected, and he was showing me at that time, I'm not choosing you, I don't care what your thoughts are, what your feelings are. He would say, oh, I'm sorry, I understand, I get where you're coming from, but the actions never changed. And that's where that's where it shows. And it took me forever to realize that, but I'm so glad that I at least realized that. Guys, I feel like I got off track. Let me know if I got off track right now. Put it in the comments if you're watching this. I feel like I got off track. So I'm going to glance down at my computer now and not make this awkward because my mind is like racing because there's so much emotion and all the emotions are in this topic. And so it gets hard to not go over the top or overshare just yet, if you know what I mean. So, deep breaths. So as I've been on the journey of really reflecting to get back on track, I'm sorry, went through something when I was in elementary school where whenever I would go to my dad's house, I would always get sick, migraines, and it would usually lead to vomiting. And it would really only happen at his house, and if it did happen at my mom's, it would be the night before I was going to his house. And no one ever really thought that maybe it was literally because I didn't want to go to my dad's house, and there was so much anxiety around the thought of going there because I didn't feel like it was my home, and I didn't feel chosen there, and it just didn't feel comfortable as an elementary schooler to be there. I don't know, I just wanted to be at my mom's house. And so when I would go there, my body was like, hell no. And so it would literally just go off the rails and be sick. And doctors thought I was gluten-free and I was gluten-free for 2 months, and they did all this testing for me, and I would have to literally bring my own gluten-free food to birthday parties and stuff because I couldn't have the cake or the pizza or whatever. And that was a big deal. Like that, as like an elementary schooler, to do that was just so just could have been avoided, because I've now realized I wasn't even gluten-free. And we found out after the testing that I wasn't gluten-free anyways. But that was literally stemming from trauma and holding on to my dad and my stepmom and hoping that they would change and we would be a happy family and I would have this amazing relationship with my dad that I always wanted. And let me just give a little background real quick. My parents got divorced when I was in first grade, so I was 6. And then within 6 months, he met my stepmom. She moved in with us right away, got pregnant real soon, engaged real soon. And then she was 3 months pregnant at their wedding. And then ever since, I'd say when my brother was born, a wall went up. And my stepmom literally did anything she could to be between the relationship of me and my dad. Anytime I wanted to sit next to him on the couch before bedtime when he was watching his sports or something, she would ask me to get up and move because she wanted to sit there. Me and my brother had a fight over sitting next to my dad at dinner every night, even though we were only there half the time, because she had to sit next to him every single night, even though she's with him 100% of the time. And that was just built up anger when I was younger because I didn't speak up. I was young and I didn't know how stupid that was. I felt it, but I was an elementary schooler. You don't think like that. You're not picking up on all of those signs. But as I grew up, it escalated and shit got messy and dirty and zero words to describe, to be honest. And I honestly, I don't even know literally how to even say this or if there's even a right way, but yeah, I cut my dad off and I'm starting this journey of healing from that. And that's recent. Well, not all of this journey is recent, but me cutting my dad off is a recent thing. And I just want to share it because I haven't found anybody that has gone through some of the things that I've gone through with these 2 relationships, and it's affected my life in so many ways. And I talked about how it affected my body and getting sick and just how I'm dealing with that and moving forward and growing. And I already feel so amazing and this is the right decision, because when people show you time and time again who they are, that's who they are, because it's not changing. And I have been in this cycle with these 2 relationships for 13 years. A million promises, a million sorries, also a lot of missing sorries that should have been said when they weren't. But all of that to be said, it's all in front of you. And I know it can be so hard to see it and you just ignore it. And you might even realize it, but you just push it down and push it down. And even people in your life might be telling you cut that person out. That is not good. That's not healthy. That is not filling your cup. That is not bringing good to your life. That's only bringing you down. And I realize that so much of what I deal with on a day-to-day in my life stems from that life of having my dad and stepmom in my life. Because when I'm in that house, it is nothing but drama and bad vibes. And anybody that is in my life that has been in that house would say the exact same thing. And I have brought people into that house who didn't even know the background of stuff that's gone down, and they made a comment to me about it. And those were things that I picked up on through the years, and I started to realize maybe something really is wrong with this house and these people in my life that are supposed to be my parents. Maybe I do have some reflecting to do on that, and my signs that my body is giving me that this isn't okay are actually right and they're true. But I just didn't want to believe it because I had so much hope that this person would change. And this exact same situation can be in friendships and other relationships. And I just am choosing to talk about this because this is such a key thing to my healing and to my life of how I'm moving forward. And as I said, we'll get into the real specifics and really break down my story and other stories within that. But I've also just realized when I was thinking about those relationships that nothing has ever changed. So why am I going to choose to stay in that cycle when I'm literally at a point in my life where I'm trying to move forward and follow my dreams and build a life for myself? How am I going to fully do that and fully be me doing that and be in the mental space to do that if I'm also in that cycle still that I've been in since I was 6 years old? I still feel like the 6-year-old that was made to feel like anything they say is not true, it's not important, you don't know what you're talking about, one day you'll be old enough to have adult conversations. I can't be in that environment and be here doing what I want to do and build for myself. So that's why I cut him off. And this is the start of that and my sharing. And I'm so excited. And I have been so nervous to start this podcast because, I don't know podcasting. It's a learning journey as I'm going. And I have so much to say, but it can be hard to relay it and share it in the right way, if that makes sense. But I want you to know that I'm doing my best and I am really excited and I'm learning and I have so much more to come. A lot of crazy shit too, guys. You guys are literally going to be sitting like, what the fuck? Trust me. You will be hearing some stuff like that soon. But for now, I really hope you were able to hear what I had to say and where I'm coming from, and you could take something from that and relate to it, because I know I'm not the only one that struggles with that. And if any of you have a relationship or a story that they want to share with me that they feel stuck in, or like, I don't know, but they have all these green flags, but there's red flags too, and then it gets blurry and you make the wrong decisions or you over forgive, and that's when it gets messy. So I'm an open book and you can always share, and I want to bring girls together to relate and create that safe place. So yeah, I hope you guys were able to get that from this episode, and I will see you guys for episode 3. So bye.